I've spent a lot of time trading the word objects out for other things, and one of the things I often think about is bodies. And I want to acknowledge that this is a room of people who are all perhaps far from our homes, far from the places where sometimes it is most easy for us to tell our most natural stories. And also, we are at a conference that is about exchange, that is about storytelling. And we're also going to be talking about some of those forces of displacement that make objects move from place to place, that force bodies to move from place to place. And I have to keep reminding myself that this says that objects will already portray their own stories, not that it is impossible to tell those stories otherwise. And so the reflection I would love to offer for people is I want each of you in this space to think of a person or a place or a thing that you miss. And I want you to take a moment to just think of what that is, or who that is, or where that is. A place that perhaps helps you feel at home, an object that helps you feel at home, a person that helps you feel at home. And I want you to just take a moment to think about that. And as I spend a lot of time thinking about what it means to miss something, there's an inverse of this question that I love to pose, which is, who are you when you are with this person? Who are you when you are in this place? Who are you when you are with this thing? What is the version of yourself that you might be missing right now? Who is that? And when you engage with that part of yourself that comes alive when you are in these places or with these things or with these people, what are the stories that start to emerge from your body? What are the stories that you are able to begin to tell? And I think I have a desire for myself to continue to think about that here this weekend with each other, to really be able to bring that person forward, you know? And so with that, I invite everybody to take a deep breath and to return to this space as we continue on. Okay, thank you all so much for joining me in that. So the theme of the conference, this idea of being able to explore the unseen, is something that we've talked about over and over again. And we have 3 sub-themes that we're really going to be exploring together as the conference goes on. And so I want to introduce each one of them, but also with a couple prompts for all of us to engage in together. So we have this thing called Mentimeter. If you want to take out your phones or if you're on your laptops, and go to menti.com, and type in this password, 5614-6656. We have a few prompts that we're going to take you all to. First conversation question that we have is, what is something you saw on your journey here, right? Whether you are from the Chemnitz community or you traveled from across the world, feel free to join up with one person, 2 other people, 3 other people, and take a couple minutes to share what is something you saw as you journeyed here. Cool? And if you haven't used Menti before, as a word continues to appear, that word will get larger than the other ones present. Cool, so let's take a couple more minutes with this prompt. And again, with each other, what are the turning points that have impacted our journeys as peace builders?
I guess the turning point is learning about peace building and the theories that it exists. I didn't know about it until I was an adult. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool way of seeing the world and how change is happening.
All right, and so, to introduce our second sub-theme. Our second sub-theme is around supremacy and polarization. We're interested in diving into affect, how polarization feeds systems of supremacy and vice versa, and where within these divisions we can imagine relationships to be built, both intracommunally and intercommunally. We recognize that oppression across society often expresses itself through experiences of invisibility and otherness, and nevertheless, communities collaborate and persist constantly and globally to create power for themselves. What is the relationship between that power that micro-communities are building and challenging larger systems of supremacy? So our next question, as 43 of you have already responded to, is what is something you wish had more visibility in society?
Oh yeah, so I've been working with Build Up for a while.
And our prompt to connect with one another around this theme is, what is a relationship in your life that impacts you being here? What is a relationship, a spirit of somebody else not in this room, that you would love to invoke in this space?
Okay. No, so I've been working with Build Up for a while, but I never really knew the framework of peace building.
Okay.
And this person has been working in peace building for 20, 30 years, went back to do her PhD, and she succinctly explains peace building in 10 minutes.
Wow. I know.
Okay, and to introduce our last theme, our final sub-theme for the conference, our third sub-theme is around connecting spaces. Where do we meet each other? Where do we build relationships, and where do we turn towards trust and accountability for the solutions to our pressing issues? In connecting spaces, we'll be able to hear about the micro-communities being built globally, think about their formations, their sustenance, and how networks of communication can be built between them to strengthen the movements that they represent. And so, our next question is, where do you want to manifest a world unseen? Yeah, so if we're talking about this idea of building connected spaces, building smaller pockets of society that are able to represent something different than the world around us, where is a place that you specifically might want to do that?
One of these just says chocolate. Is someone trolling?
I'm here for that. I'm here for that.
I realized I was watching the words move and didn't hear the prompt. Did you?
No.
Great, okay. Everywhere. That's ambitious.
Oh yeah, Choco Colombia?
Well, no, there's Choco Colombia, but there's also chocolate.
Okay, amazing. Thank you all so much for these responses.
Okay.
So if we could come back together for a moment, with this idea of where do we want to manifest a world unseen, we would love Build Peace 2022 to be one of those spaces. Outside of the build-up space, I work as a community organizer, mostly in restorative justice and abolition in the United States context. And one of the things that we're constantly thinking about is, what are the alternative ways of care that we can take on to really be able to depend on one another? right? Ways of care that are not inclusive of the norms that are taught to society through systems of policing and imprisonment, through surveillance, through the existence of borders, this question of what can we do otherwise. And so I did want to issue a challenge to all of us to build that space together this weekend.